Hello, Jeando.
Hello, Kevin.
So this is a continuation of our discussion on the orders. And this week you want to talk about the orders, the relationship between the orders and coordination. So over to you, Jeando.
Well, it's a very interesting subject, but a difficult one because nowhere in the books is Alexander defining coordination. So very often he uses a strange way to write it down. There is co and then hyphen and ordination. So I don't know if there is something, if we have to see something in this, but one thing is for sure is that his message has a difficulty getting through to his first generation teacher, and then, well, of course, to us. Last time I proposed to look at a picture comparing the concept of lengthening the spine in the old days when Alexander was alive and nowadays. And I showed a picture. So let's go back to this picture again. Let's see if you can see this for a moment. So there was in the center, Mr. Frederick Matthias Alexander using his hands. So he's brought his hands forward. Yes, he's in a special kind of organization of the torso relatively to the limbs that he called the position of mechanical advantage. There is a very peculiar shape of the spine. And on each side, there are pictures taken from the net where modern Alexander technique teachers are advertising their work, so that these are pictures that they have chosen to present. And when I look at them, and I explained last time that there is a marked difference, and we see clearly that the shape of what it's better to use the term the geometry of the spine is very different in the modern Alexander technique and in Alexander conception. This goes back very well, very long, because I have many videos where I see the first generation teachers, when they are putting hands on people, they are not, in fact, implementing the geometry Alexander considered to be a geometry of mechanical advantage. When I present these types of diagrams, well, I just hide the fact that it's FM Alexander, and I create a diagram with bony parts, and I present that to modern Alexander technique teachers. Most often, they erupt in anger, saying that this shape is absolutely a wrong coordination of the movements of the parts. Yet it's the one that Alexander in fact proposed and used all his life. And we are very lucky because there is a video that is a very, very late video in his life. It's in 1951. Alexander died in 55, so it's 4 years before his death. And we see in this video that, of course, he's always using the different parts in order to present that shape, but also it's absolutely obvious that he's manipulating the pupil in order to get that organization of the different parts of the spine. The lumbar spine, the thoracic spine, and the cervical spine are organized always in the same way, and it's very different from what you see here. And so these pictures are the effect of using the hands. The person is using the hands, so the person has to move their hands forward, and all three are moving their hands forward. The difference is what we call the coordination of the movement of the limbs relatively to the movements of the parts of the torso. So today, I want to explain what we mean, or what Alexander could have meant. It's how I translate his sentence, what we mean by coordination of the movements of the different parts of the torso with the movements of the limbs. So I have had many requests recently about the fact that these talks are intellectual, are very theoretical, and I think it's good. I will, because it goes very well with the subject of orders and coordination, I will ask you to have a little bit of practice so that people could get an idea, a very concrete representation of what it means to be taught to coordinate movements and to link instructions with movements, because that is something that Alexander has written. But now it's very, very rare to find somebody that is capable of explaining what Alexander meant by linking up the orders with the movements. So if you don't mind, I would like to start with an impromptu lesson, a little short presentation of how we could find a sensible translation or meaning for this idea of linking up the movements of the parts.
Okay,
What do you
sounds good.
Okay,
So we'll show
good.
give everybody a practical illustration right now.
We are now ready to have a little lesson, and we will see what we mean by coordinating orders of movements. So the movements we are talking about are movements of bony parts. So in order to, in fact, discuss between ourselves what we mean by the orders, it's absolutely important, fundamental at first, to have a correct definition for the parts. So there will be one. It is what we call the instep. It's situated just at the front of the ankle, on the internal part of the, so could you set, it would be much better for us if you could set, use the sword, the ruler as a sword. You know, remember how that's it. And then now you can direct the tip of the sword so that you place it on the instep. Yes, so it's the very front of a bone that we call the talus. That is very important because it receives all the weight of the torso. So that it's going to be what I call the instep, or sometimes I can call it also the front of the ankle. Now I want you to locate another spot, and it's the opposite. We want the lowest one is the instep, the one you've just marked. But now I want you to mark the spot that is the upper extremity of the sternum, which is the front of the upper torso, with the ruler, with the tip of the ruler. That's it. So we have to locate where is the bony top of the sternum. That's it. So now we've got the two extremities, the top and the bottom. Now let's go to find the middle spot, the spots that are going to help us direct the middle of the torso, and that is what we call the rebate. There are two on each side, and so we call that the rebate line. Could you please set the ruler horizontal so that the blade touches the two rebate? Yes. There is a way to make sure that we have got exactly the rebate, is to really pull the abdomen backward, to suck the belly in and back. And there, it's easy to notice that there is a point of inflection, that is the curve of the arc of the rib is at one moment really changing direction. It's going really far back rather than down. That's it. So that's the extremity of that rib, the eighth rib, we call the rebate, and there is a rebate line. So now the last thing is to use the sword once again as the ruler as a sword, and point to the left iliac. What we call iliac is the anterosuperior iliac crest. It's a spot that is, yes, on the frontal part of the torso. So to in fact guide the movement of the lower part of the torso, we use that spot, which I call iliac, and there are two. So we can make a line between the two. So that's it, a line, the line of the iliac. So now we have the line of the iliac, the line of the ribs, and one spot for the throat. We are going to see how we can coordinate the movements of these different parts to come, in fact, on a geometrical position in space that is a vertical plane above the instep. That's what we are going to do in a minute in standing. For the moment, in sitting, it's not really important. we are going to monitor the movements of the parts of the limbs. To monitor the movement of the parts of the arm, we are going to use, first of all, the tip of the elbow. So could you flex the left arm, present the tip of the elbow forward and touch it with the extremity of the sword? That's it. So we have a spot here and we call it the tip of the elbow. There is another one now in between the forearm and the hand. In between the forearm and the hand, if you turn your palm and look at it, you will find that there is a line that separates the forearm from the palm, and the center of that line is what we call the base of the palm. Could you please look? Yes. So look, at the moment, the base of the palm is just slightly higher than the tip of the elbow. Could you please drop the fingers of the left hand further down? Yes, further down, so that the base of the palm is going up in space, pushing your ruler, while the fingers are going, while the nails are going toward the floor. Could you raise the base of the palm? Yes, and raise the base of the palm at the same time. So yes, raising means going up in space. So now we have a new form, a new organization of the parts of the arm in which we nearly have the tip of the elbow and the fingers at the same height while the base of the palm is higher. We are going to start defining movement in that way, and we are going to start to see whether the movement is produced, what we say, performed, according to the instruction that you're given. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to define a few orientations so you can stop touching. Yeah, there is what we call the line of the ribs. It's the center of the torso. You've placed the ruler on it, but we can also, for example, place a book in there. If we place a book, we have not only a line, we have the line of the ribs, but we can have the plane of the ribs. Okay, we define all the orientations in orders. In the orders, there is, for example, forward, upward, backward, outward. All these directions are, in fact, defined relatively to the plane and line of the front of the torso. So if you imagine a plane of the ribs and the line of the ribs, you want to set now your ruler such that it's 90 degrees to the line of the ribs and 90 degrees to the plane of the ribs. That's exactly correct, but it's not, in fact, I was not precise enough. I would like you to use the ruler as a sword and place it. Yes, 90 degrees to the line of the ribs and 90 degrees to the plane of the ribs. That's nice. Okay, so we see that there is a movement of the arm. There is a large movement of the arm because of this. Yes, the hand is now forward of the torso. Okay, but we will see that there is a coordination because the shoulder has moved in space. And it has moved in space in opposite direction to the ribs, of course, because in order to fit the ruler, you have to bring the shoulder, the upper part of the arm and the elbow forward, while you have to direct the ribs backward, otherwise the ruler will not fit. Yes, so we are starting to see what we mean by coordination of the movements of the parts of the limbs and the coordination of the movement of the parts of the torso. From the view we have that you're offering us at the moment, it is absolutely clear that the arm is connected with the upper torso. The upper torso is brought further forward because your elbow is very far forward, while in order to fit the ruler against the middle of the torso, against the rib line, well, you had to, in fact, direct the movement of the middle torso backward in space. And as a result, we see yourself from the side, we see a geometry of the spine that is reminiscent of the one Alexander was presenting in the previous photo. We would say that from the chair right up to the armpit height, the spine is absolutely lengthening. Alexander defines lengthening with a geometrical explanation using a piece of paper. And he says, if a piece of paper is flat against the surface, it will measure a greater distance than when it is, in fact, shorten in the middle, which is arch. Your back, your lower back from the armpit to the chair is not arched. And we see that the upper torso has been brought forward by the movement of the elbow. Well, because the shoulder, after extending to its maximum, is starting to pull the upper torso back forward in space. So this is what we call forward. The direction forward is 90 degrees to the plane of the ribs. So please, could you lean forward to show us what's going to happen to the line that we call forward? What is forward when the person is leaning? Yes, you have to calculate, because at the moment, what is happening is that your ruler is 90 degrees to the line of the ribs, but it's not yet 90 degrees to the plane of the ribs. Your hand is too far forward for that. The 90-degree angle, as seen from my position, from the side, is not done. Could you move the hand further back than it is at the moment, slightly further back? Which means down for you. No, it means down for you, sorry. Yes, a little bit more. I will tell you when I see a 90-degree angle. Yes, that's it, 90-degree angle. So you have to understand, viewers, when you see this, when I say to the person, you direct the elbow forward, it has to be directed to a direction that you have to calculate. You have to reason. Could you now sit back? When you sit back, you have to move the torso back. The ruler has to follow to keep the 90-degree angle. Could you sit? That's nice. See? So this is forward and back. When we discuss upward, again, it's the same problem. You have to reason with moving structures. You cannot think that up is the direction opposite to the fall of gravity, because that is true for constructing structure that are static, but we are talking about dynamic structures. So could you now direct the sword or the ruler, if you want, so that the tip is pointing up? And by up, I mean it's 90 degrees to the line of the ribs and parallel to the plane of the ribs. Could you show us what up could be? Yes. Could you incline the torso backward to show us what how up is calculated? So yes. So when I say I want to direct, for example, the rebate line up, it's up, and there is a teacher, it's Patrick McDonald, he said up along the torso. So this is absolutely correct. Could you come back to sitting and direct the ribs up along the torso? That's nice, good. So now we have up, we have down and back and forward. We need only one more instructions of orientation. It's inward and outward. So please, could you show us again the line of the ribs? So place the sword so that it's parallel to the line of the ribs. That's it. Now, instead of presenting it against your ribs, could you set the line parallel to this line, but further forward away from the torso? That's it. Also, we have a line that has been created by, in fact, joining two spots. So it happens that there is a middle to that line. And I think at the moment, are you not touching the middle of the line with your fingers? Yes, of course, to keep the ruler balanced, that's what I would do. Okay, so we have a line and we have a center. This is enough to define what we are going to call outward. For example, outward is a definition that we have to always calculate. It's outward is any line, is a movement on any line that is parallel to the rib line and going away from the center. So could you show us with your left index finger, starting from the center of the line, where is the direction? Could you make a movement with the left index finger, starting from there? Where is outward? Yes. So we are very clear, outward is a movement along a line. If we want to define inward, well, of course, the definition is just opposite. It's the same idea, moving along a line that is parallel to the rib line, going toward the center. So now we have already defined the tip of the elbow, and we haven't defined yet what we call the line, because it's impossible to really direct a spot. We can direct a line. A spot has as many directions as you want. A line has one direction. So it's very easy to create the line of the elbow by using the thumb and index finger. So for example, could you use the thumb and index finger of the right hand in such a way as to come with the tip of the right index finger and touch the tip of the left elbow, touching the tip of the left elbow with the tip of the right index finger. That's it. But now with your thumb, the thumb of the right hand, could you touch the inside of the elbow? That's it. In between your two fingers, we have now two spots, of course. We have a line. So that is going to be the line of the elbow. So it's possible to direct the tip of the elbow outward and the line of the elbow downward. Do you listen to this instruction, directing the tip of the elbow outward and the line of the elbow downward? So outward, it has to be a line parallel to the line of the ribs. So could you direct the elbow toward the camera? Yes, and more until it's pointing straight at it. And now down. You keep outward and down. That's it. That's it. We've got it. So you turn around so that we can see the tip of the elbow. There is more rotation. That's it. We've got it. Okay. So these are the building blocks, the words we are going to use to define the instructions. So now we are going to take a very simple activity, which is absolutely necessary. The coordinated use of the arms when you move the arms forward. And we are going to play this game in a controlled experiment. I will show you how, just in standing close to the wall. So could you please, for the moment, stand? I will explain how we are going to control the experiments. That's nice. So there is something we absolutely need to control is the position of the upper torso, of the throat. Have you kept the ruler with you? Could you, with the tip of the ruler, indicate the instep of the left leg? So this is the instep of the left leg. We are very clear. It's at a certain distance from the wall. Yes. Depending on the distance of the front of the knee to the wall, we can measure whether the lower leg is vertical or not. For the moment, we are going to, it's sufficient for the moment so that you bring the chair so that it's pushing or touching the back of your knees. We are going to easily, yes, I think you brought your feet back. I would rather have you bring the feet further forward and bring the chair to you. Oh yes, at the moment you're measuring the distance from the wall to the instep. That's nice. So we know exactly how far the instep is from the wall. But it's better if you use the ruler as a sword so that every time you have to organize the movement of the arm such that the elbow has to move forward in space. Yes, that's better. And then we'll set it horizontal. That's fantastic. So in standing, you should be now capable of organizing the movement of the lower part. And so you have to push the chair. Yes, slightly. It's too close because your knees are very much further forward than your instep. Okay? We are going to check that in a second. And now there is another thing is that before we start, I just want to establish where the throat is relatively, well, to the instep. There is a vertical plane of reference in front of you. There is a door. That door we imagine is vertical or more or less. And so it's very simple. Now that we know the distance from the instep to the wall, we would like you to measure the distance from the throat to the wall using the ruler as a sword. Yes, that's it. And so we want to see whether you're too close. And if you are, yes, the ruler will not fit. The ruler is not fitting. So please take the ruler off. Yes, we always measure horizontal distances. So because there was an horizontal distance measured from the instep to the wall, we are absolutely certain that the throat is further forward than the instep. But for the moment, we are not going to instruct the pupil to pull the throat back, because that would arch his back even more. No, we are going to work below the upper torso with the middle torso and lower torso. So the idea for the moment, I don't think it's necessary to have the ruler in the hand. So could you place it behind on the well, or yes, that's it. Okay, so good. This is the start of the lesson. So I am going to first give you a very simple instruction. I would like you to place the left hand against the door. That's it. Left hand has gone against the door. Okay. Now I want you to bring the hands back alongside the body as it was before you complied with my first instruction. That's it. My question is to you, do you think that in raising the hand, there has been an impact on the leg?
Yes.
Yes, it's an impact on the movement of the leg. What movement of the leg have you spotted?
Went back.
The leg went back. Oh dear, that's very interesting. That's why we always need a video recording, because my first impression, when the hand went forward, to touch the wall, you think your leg went back. Is that correct?
No, I think the leg went back when I took the hand back.
Oh, yes. So do you think that the leg went forward when you took the hand forward?
I think it did, but I didn't notice.
Yes, I know you didn't notice, but that's why there is a video. You need to watch this video closely and slow it down maybe and look at what is happening, what is the coordination of the movement of the hand going forward and the coordination of the leg that I affirm was also slightly going forward when you brought the hand forward. The coordination between the two parts was not intentional, was not deliberate, was not reasoned. It was just somatic. It was just the habit of movement, of coordination of the parts. Okay, you have to understand what is happening when you reach for something with your hand. Do you think that the middle torso goes back or forward because the leg has moved forward, as I said? First of all, do you understand my question?
I think the middle torso would have gone forward with it.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, and if the middle torso goes forward with the leg, there is you have to imagine a risk of falling forward. So there must be some movement coordinated with that in order to prevent you from falling forward with the leg forward, the knee forward, and the middle torso forward. It stands to reason that you would react to that by having the upper torso go back in space. Yes? It's very difficult to see it because you have already had lessons and it was not really visible, but we can create a counter experiment. We can create a situation where you decide that when you receive the stimulus to move the hand forward, in a moment, I'm going to stimulate you. I'm going to ask you to go and touch the wall, okay? You must be prepared for that. You know it's going to happen. You're going to tell yourself, okay, when he asks me to touch the door, I will inhibit first doing it the old way. I will give myself the necessary preventive orders. And we are going to be very definite in these orders. When you are going to bring the hand forward toward the wall, you want to push the chair. You want to inhibit any movement of flexion of the ankle. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you think it's possible to go forward with the hand toward the door and push the chair with the back of the knee at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, that's a coordination. Good. We understand that this will bring the rebate line further back than it is at the moment. Do you agree or not?
Yes, we will.
Yes, when you push the chair. So it means that you're not only linking the movement of the legs, but the movement of the middle torso in the opposite direction of the movement of the wrist. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm interested in something. Do you think it could be possible? Because when you go forward to touch the wall, you understand that your hand is going up in space, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think it could be possible to coordinate a movement of the elbow with the movement of the hand? I mean, the, most people, they don't realize that to go reach up with the hand, they reach up with the elbow. My question is very purely theoretical for the moment. Do you think you can reach up with the hand and reach down with the elbow?
Yes.
Oh, good. For the moment, we have 4 orders of movements that are linked together. So when you're ready, I want you to count to 3 and touch the door with the left hand.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, it was absolutely obvious that the chair went back, that the middle torso went back. So the relationship between the movement of the elbow and the movement of the rib 8 line is said to be antagonistic, in opposition. Yes, and your stance in front of the wall is now different. Your lengthening of the spine is also very different. But I have a question. I want you to test something from where you are, still pushing the chair with the rebate line going back, yes, still having the elbow go forward. But I want to know if it's possible for you to, in fact, without moving the palm that is on the door, we want the palm to stay where it is, a fixed end, okay, not moving it. I want to know if whether it's possible to have the elbow further down than it is at the moment without the ribs moving forward. Do you think so?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as soon as you're ready, you give us 3, 1 to start, 2 in the middle, 3 to stop all movements. I pull the tip of the elbow, of course, for the moment, downward.
1, 2, 3.
Okay. I've seen that. There is a spot I forgot to mention. It's the spot I call the sitting bones. You remember the sitting bones? Could you just for a moment locate the sitting bone? Yes? Okay. As you brought the hand back, do you know what your knees have gone and what I've done and your also the ribs 3 have done?
No.
Okay. Do you still have the chair against the back of the knee?
No.
No. So you can, from that, can you not make a reasoned estimate as to what has been the movement?
The knees have gone forward, and so has probably the rib line.
Yes, so it's quite interesting. We see that the same incorrect coordination is adjusted to the normal way of having the hand go forward, but also the opposite one, which is quite strange in a way, because the distribution of the weight is very different now. There is when the hand and arm weight are forward, of course, this tends to change the equilibrium. You tend to fall forward. So at the moment, could you both direct the tip of the elbow down, the rebate line back, and the sitting bone that you've just touched? I want them to be directed down. So let's go back. There is down for the elbow, down for the sitting bone, and back for the rebate. We want to see if you can, at the same time, pull the elbow further down than it is, and also push, find the contact with the chair so that the leg is vertical and influenced and correctly aided by gravity again. When you're ready, give me a 3.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, 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 yes. You see? So now the difficult point is to go back with the hand alongside the torso. So this time you're going to tell yourself, yes, there is a movement of the rib 8 line back, no matter what the elbow is doing, and I'm going to pull the sitting bone down. I'm going to pull the sitting bone down and the rebate line backward so that I keep the contact with the chair when I drop the arm.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, fantastic. There is a new relationship between the upper torso and the middle torso and the lower torso now, just by using a principle that we call a coordinated use of the arms and the different parts of the torso. What we are linking up here are movements of parts. We are not linking up parts. There is no physical link between the elbow and the middle torso. But yet, if you just want to bring the index finger against the door, remember your orders. You think, okay, if I bring the index finger against the door, the elbow is going, of course, forward. I want it to go forward but down. In order to achieve that, I have to direct the elbows outward. And when the elbow is going outward, down, and forward, I want the ribs to go back in space and the sitting bone to go down in space. Could you touch the door with the tip of the index finger? That's it. Could you stop touching the door with it and come back to standing? And we are going to check how you keep organizing the different parts with the opposite movement. That's it. This is the end of this short lesson to explain, well, practically, concretely, how the movements of the different parts of the arm can be linked up with the use of the other parts of the torso and of the body, of course, because not only the torso, but we've seen that in order for the parts of the torso to be, in fact, directed, moved in space, it was necessary here to also organize the different movements of the lower limb. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're back. So what are your comments on what we just done, Jeando? And how does this fit in with the images and the quotes you've been showing us already related to the orders?
Yes. So first of all, thank you, because that was very important. And in the sense that we have defined what is working to principle. We have demonstrated the principle that is you were able to use verbal instructions, we call orders, and these orders were in fact defined in such a way as to specify the movement in space of different bony parts of the anatomical structure. You were able to use these instructions, and as a result of using these instructions, it's been seen that in activity, so the activity was, of course, using for the moment the hands, bringing the hands forward. We see that just bringing the hands forward is sufficient to, in fact, stimulate the habitual coordination of the orders that we have somatically learned. And we've demonstrated, or you have demonstrated, that you were capable of changing straight away the way the normal habitual coordination was imposing a functioning, a mechanical functioning on your structure. And this is the basis of conscious guidance. The conscious control being the fact that you will be able to watch on video to see what exactly has happened, where you can still improve, yes, and whether you were in the right direction, which is the right direction has two aspects. One aspect is, of course, the movements were happening in the correct directions. There are directions, there are opposite, most of the time, opposite directions. Antagonistic actions are simply actions that are opposite in space. But there is also another meaning to this idea of going in the right direction. It's we are going in the right direction that when we can see on screen by the visual control that the movement we perform are more and more subordinated to our instructions. We make sure that when we give an order, we obey these series of orders, and the special reorganization of the whole structure is according to the plan. So yes, that is very important. So imagine I was showing you or discussing this image we've seen last time, where we see Alexander. It's absolutely obvious that the trajectory of his elbows are really thought about, because as you can see, the upper arm, when he's working with a little girl, his upper arm is exactly vertical. There is no idea that the upper part of the arm is further back than the elbow. Alexander's orientation of the upper torso is in fact commanded by the use of the limbs. We see that by directing the upper shoulder forward, but also downward, is got a completely different relationship between the upper torso and the middle torso. In this case, we see that the middle torso is back and that the upper torso is forward. It's fundamentally different. And so it's absolutely obvious to me that we have here a person that is using conscious guidance. The movements of the arms and the movements of the parts of the torso are coordinated, well, deliberately. Is really making, and we see in both other teachers that they have no idea of this concept of directing movements, and so the upper torso is affected by the relative position of course, the upper part of the arm and the elbow movements. So Alexander is sometimes difficult to read, and sometimes it's too easy. Sometimes it's glaring, and when it's glaring, apparently we cannot see it. What he's saying here is part of an illustration he gave about a fundamental procedure he wanted all his teachers to perform. It's what we call the hands on the back of a chair procedure. What this hands on the back of the chair procedure has to do with what we are looking at the moment is it starts, of course, by having the hands move forward in space to rest on the top of a rail. Well, it's just a stimulus. It's a stimulus to bring the hands forward in space. And so what is essential here in this idea is a coordinated use of the arms. And the only way by which he can secure this is first by giving the necessary preventive orders, and then by rehearsing the series of new orders given by the teacher in which the movement of the arm is linked up with the use of the other parts of the body. So after translating the books of Alexander, I have discovered that it was necessary to, in fact, have an index of every word he's using, important words. For example, coordinated use is a very important word. Coordinated use at first looks a bit blurry. It's very difficult to understand what we mean by coordinated use. Unless you read extensively and you start to discover here and there that when Alexander is talking about coordinated use, he's talking of movements happening at the same time. It is now obvious to me that when the elbows are moving, it's because the hands have gone forward. So the hands go forward, the elbow move forward. And the question is, what happens to the shoulder? Is the shoulder directed forward or directed backward? And the question is directed forward relatively to what? Well, in the Alexander image, it's absolutely obvious that the shoulder, the upper part of the arm, is directed forward of the rebate line. While in this person, Well, the coordination of the movement that is done is such that the rebate line is forward relatively to the upper part of the arm. This means that the coordination of the movement of the elbow and upper part of the arm are related in a defective way, because this tends to bring shortening, a narrowing, protruding abdomen, upper pigeon chest. We see very clearly that her sternum is inclined backward at the top. So this is not a coordinated use of the arms with the other parts of the torso. It's not only that when she brings the hand forward, the elbow is going forward and the shoulder is going up and back, shortening the muscles of the neck. Yes, because the big muscles of the shoulders are in fact muscles that link the shoulder blade with the head. They are the muscles of the neck. And so when you have the upper torso that is pushed back by the movement of the shoulder, you can be absolutely certain that the person is, of course, shortening the neck and, as you see here, pulling the head back. The head is pulled very far back, when the head of Alexander, of course, is very far forward relative to the middle torso again. So when Alexander is talking of the coordinated use of the arm, he's not precise. He's not telling us, unfortunately, that it's coordinated relatively to what? Are we talking of the different movements of the parts of the limb, of the upper limb, that are coordinated together? Or is he talking of the coordination of the movement of the parts of the limbs with the different parts of the torso? Now, first, we've seen that there is a coordination of the movements of the part that is a legacy of the somatic first person cognition of the movements. The person is already, when the person starts a lesson, the person has already a certain manner of use, a certain manner of coordinating the movement of the different parts of the arm and the different parts of the torso. The idea is to give the person the means whereby she can change this, of course, coordination, this somatic coordination. And the means to change this somatic coordination is, of course, as we will see, the idea of projecting orders. The pupil is simply asked to make decisions. We ask the people to, in fact, stop a certain number of movements. So they are necessary preventive order. Alexander sometimes called that order of definite inhibition. You're seen to move the knees forward every time your hands are going forward. We can explain to the pupil very simply that this leads to a postural problem, because if the knees are going forward, the ankle releasing, the middle torso weight is going to be brought forward. And there is really a problem of falling forward. So we see that this is solved in the habitual coordination because we see a postural reaction. The fact that the person is pulling the shoulder back away from the elbow and the upper torso back is obviously to prevent a fall on the pupil. So there is a postural reaction to the simple fact of moving the fingers forward. It's absolutely necessary that the person should be knowledgeable, should understand what's going to happen, and in order to understand the principle of prevention that we are using, the instruction that we are giving have this postural background all the time. Why is it that we want the elbow and the upper part of the arm to go forward in the movement? Well, it's simply because in that case, it will become more and more impossible to have the middle torso go forward, because if you do so, if you have the upper torso and middle torso go forward, you're falling. So the opposition of the movements of the upper torso, middle and lower limb are necessary to maintain the upright stance. very often, for example, if you have to bring your hands very low, you will find that it's not sufficient to prevent the knee to go forward. We will need more backward. And so that is why in this position of mechanical advantage, that is one amongst many, we see that Alexander is not only directed, of course, the middle torso backward, but also is directing the lower torso backward relatively to the knees. Is creating a backward movement. The back is going back in space so that the upper torso can move as far forward as he wants, so that he can, well, of course, work with his hands that are freely supported by a back that is lengthening, but also he can have the head very, very far forward from the back. So what the means whereby obtaining the coordination in Alexander's mind are a series of new orders. The new orders given by the teachers are these orders in which the movements of the arm is linked up with the use of the other part of the body. I really despair sometimes of Alexander if he had put an S to the movements. There are movements of the different parts of the arms as well as movements of the different parts of the torso. We are linking up the different movements. We are linking up all the movements. This is the basis of conscious guidance and control. So it's a fairly interesting demonstration. And we will see that Alexander very often come back to the same idea. The linking up of the guiding orders or direction is all important, for it is the counterpart of the linking up of the parts of the organism which constitute what we call coordination. This is the only definition you will find in Alexander's books about what he means by coordination. The coordination for him is, in fact, the linking up of the guiding orders or direction. And most people have thought that he was talking about neck free, head forward and up, back to lengthen and widen. Instructions of definite inhibition that you should never link up, that you should never perform. We are talking about the direction that are related to the movements required in order to perform the position of mechanical advantage in any activity. So it's quite important moment when we define our work or pedagogical work as bringing a person that has automatic, somatic, first-person cognition of the movement. The person is going to bring the hands forward, and what of the knees? What of the middle torso? What of the shoulders and the upper torso? The person has no real recognition of the link between all these parts, and it's only through understanding how the different movements are organized together that the person can in fact readjust the old faulty coordination to bring about the new, in fact, system of coordination that he proposes.
Okay,
Is that
super.
okay?
Yes, that's brilliant. So everyone watching, you can have fun analyzing my lesson, and you can compare what I did or didn't do with the images Jeando's been showing us. And if you want to book a lesson with Jeando or to find more about him, you'll find the links underneath this video. And we will see you in the next video. Thank you, Jeando.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.